What I want to do in this video is compare three XLR microphones that you can use to record directly into anything with an XLR. I'm putting these microphones directly into my Canon XA40 Pro camcorder. So this is kind of a weird selection of microphones, to be honest. These are just ones I've built up since I bought the camcorder, and I've had to move over to, or I've wanted to move over to XLR mics. These are the ones that I've just kind of added to my kit for different reasons. So starting with this is the Shure PGA-48. I actually quite like the sound of this microphone. It is cheap. This guy is about $48. Now the Shure SM58 is a much better known microphone. I thought this mic was decent until I started using it for shooting interviews, which was kind of one of the main reasons I wanted this mic. And what you can hear is that it's kind of a noisy microphone in terms of handling noise. You might be able to hear it as I just kind of move. So I've shot interviews with this whereby every time I really kind of moved the microphone or pointed it towards someone else, I had to like cut that out. And that got very tiring. So the Shure PGA-48 is cheap. I think the sound quality is quite good, but it's a vocal microphone and not an interview microphone. The difference is that a vocal microphone, if you think about a band playing on a stage, they typically have these microphones that are going to be sitting in a microphone stand, or something like a podcast even, right? So the microphone's sitting in the stand, it's stationary, so you don't need to worry about whether moving around the bottom of the microphone really produces a lot of noise. I'm going to stop speaking for a few seconds so you can hear the noise floor, and there's actually not much going on. Usually I've got like an dishwasher running. Right now it's actually pretty quiet. It's not a noise treated room, however, so bear that in mind. Also worth pointing out that I'm using automatic gain control on the Canon XA40, so the gain levels are not set manually, and I'm just going to literally pull out the XLR to swap over to a different mic. So that was the number one, the Shure PGA-48. Okay, now we are over onto the Samson Q2U. So this is, again, not a microphone that was really intended for the sort of stuff I'm looking to do with these microphones, which is really shooting interviews or even maybe this kind of stuff. But I do think the sound quality of this microphone is probably the best of all three. You can be the judge of that. This microphone's actually gotten really popular for streamers and podcasters. It's not as well known as the kind of big Shure microphones, the SM7B and those, but it's kind of viewed as a sort of like slightly cheaper contender. And I have a very good podcasting microphone, or very happy with my Audio-Technica AT2020, but I actually bought this one specifically so that I'd have a microphone for doing stuff like voiceovers or narrating or stuff like that while I was on the road, because something very useful about the Samson Q2U is that it has both XLR and USB output. You can see there's a little USB port at the bottom. So if you're traveling and you don't want to bring around a chunky audio interface with you on the road, then the Samson Q2U is really useful. That's why I got this. I have done a couple of interviews with it, like actually shot interviews on my main YouTube channel, Daniel Rosehill. I did an interview at a whiskey distillery in Jerusalem, and that was using this, and a little bit of handling noise. I would say not as bad as the Shure PGA-48, but nice audio quality, I think. So now we're going to swap over to the final one, which I just bought a few days ago, because after learning about the differences between vocal mics, podcasting mics, and mics you want to use specifically for interviews, I decided to buy an actual interview mic. And there aren't that many of them on the market. There's Sennheiser make one, but the kind of cheapest entry-level one, if you will, is a $100 microphone called the Rode Reporter. It's not a new microphone by any stretch. It's actually quite an old microphone, but it's one of those microphones that just kind of works, and that's why it's so popular, and it's quite robust. So let's go now. I'm going to swap over to that one. Okay, and I've just popped in the Rode Reporter. Now, sound, again, untreated. I'm not going to be working on this audio in post-production, whether normalizing or anything like that. So what you hear is kind of how it came onto the SD card. The Rode Reporter, this is the foamy I added to it. It's definitely looks more like a reporter's mic. It's longer. I'm going to step back a little bit. It's longer than the other two. And it's really light in your hands, which again is really useful if you're doing stuff like Vox Pops, where you're potentially holding the microphone for like an hour and it can get very fatiguing. The other thing that this is supposed to do better than those microphones, or better than XLR wired mics, dynamic mics, not intended for ENG interview use, is that it's supposed to be very low on the handling noise. So I'm going to just kind of do a bit of handling there around the body of the microphone. And I can see by the levels in front of me that there is a bit of noise. It's not a perfect elimination of any handling noise whatsoever, but it's probably better than the other two. So that's the comparison between the Shure PGA8, the Samson Q2U, and the Rode Reporter microphone. I'm not sure these are a mic comparison that probably doesn't already exist on YouTube, because I'm not sure if you're looking to buy them at the same time, these probably aren't in your head-to-head comparison. But for reporting, ENG use, and maybe if you're doing some, starting an amateur TV station or whatever, Rode Reporter is probably the way to go if that's what your budget is. Shure PGA-48 is fine, good audio quality, but a lot of handling noise, useful for maybe, a video podcast. So you wanted to buy like 4 microphones and you don't want to spend a ton of money. You want them to sound decent, but they're going to be sitting in podcast stands. Shure PGA48 would, in my opinion, be good for that. And the Samson Q2U, probably the best for streaming or podcasting. It's got a really nice audio quality, but it's for this kind of stuff, reporting, handheld, ENG use, I haven't seen it really used for that. And I think you're probably always better sticking to microphones that are really sort of built for that purpose. If you're thinking about buying one of these 3 mics, I hope this comparison was helpful. And if you do want to get more videos, then definitely consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, and thank you for watching.